Good evening and welcome back to the channel, fellow cosplayers. Tyrannus Cosplay once again with another episode in the series of my Nordic carved armor build. I've pretty much finished the helmet for all intents and purposes, except that I want to do a little bit about the inside. As you can see, it's still raw foam in there. Let's lift that up so you get a better view of it. Okay, it fits relatively well, but there's a little bit of slop in there. So what I want to do is line the helmet, and I was hunting around at my local fabric store for things that they had on special that might be appropriate for it, and I came across this cheapo pillowcase that was on special. It is a fake fur pillowcase. I think on sale it was like $8 or something or other. And I thought, well, what would they actually line the inside of a helmet with? Not that I'm going for reality, because it'll be on my head while I'm cosplaying most of the time, but I thought, well, yeah, probably a leather or a fur or something along those lines, considering the rest of the fur and leather that's in the costume overall. So I'm going to line it with a layer of this fake fur pillowcase. Tools that I'm going to use for the project are, of course, the helmet and the fur. I'm going to apply it with the contact adhesive, which means that we need to prep the surface inside the helmet first, because the heat sealed surface when you get your foam from the manufacturer is notorious for not being very glue friendly. So on the flat faces, I'm going to get in there with the sanding disc of the Dremel and knock off some of the shine, and particularly around the edges where, let's put that back in shot, particularly around the edges where the foam will come right out to the edge. Down along the lip here, we'll have it countersunk in where that lip is, so that the lining will be inside the helmet and not easily peeled away from the faces. So that's the project for tonight. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here with the Dremel going for the entire clean out of the surface. Now, besides the Dremel, because the foam does give off a lot of flakes when you're sanding, I have my little dust filter mask. Now, it's not a respirator like used for the glues to get rid of the fumes, etc. Simply a dust mask to stop the particles of foam from getting into my lungs while I'm grinding. What else will we need? Obviously, we're going to need craft knives and scissors to cut the foam to shape to fit inside the helmet. So the tools for this set, dead set simple. So that's what's going on in the video tonight. I'm going to hit pause for a moment, because the one thing that I didn't grab and bring over was my Dremel, which is sitting over there. I'll grab that, arc it up and do a bit of sanding to knock those points off. Once I've done that, I'll find some way of patterning this material to fit inside the surface, although I've got an idea about basically cutting it into two half domes, much like my I've had a mental blank. The balaclava. Oh, there we go. So pretty much like the balaclava, but with the face left out, and obviously not down the neck, just to line the inside of the helmet. So that's the idea that I have at the moment, to give me a base pattern to line the inside of that. When that's done, the helmet will be, for all intents and purposes, complete. There's one more bit of detail I'm planning on adding, but I think I might leave that until I've actually done the armor costume, because the detail needs to spill across from the helmet to the armor and look like one complete piece of detail. So there we go, hitting the pause button, getting the Dremel ready, and getting into this, which is episode 13. Well, that was kind of messy. Let me just tip this down here so you can see what we're doing. Where is it? There, look at all that. That is all the dust and grinding and stuff that's come out from the inside of the helmet. We'll put the camera back up on its mount. and inside the helmet you can see now is all roughed up, and most of that sheen is taken away from the inner surfaces so that the glue will actually adhere to the inside faces of the helmet. So next step is, well, yes, next step is to clean up all this dust and mess from my work area, and then use the paper pattern template for the inside. So basically all I'll do is I'll get a couple of sheets of A4 paper, press them to the inside of the helmet, and shape them around the inside of the grooves so I can then cut them out, and that will give me the patterning that I want to cut the material. And we'll coat the entire inside surface with contact adhesive step by step, and glue the new foam lining in, which will, one, make the helmet look a lot nicer on the inside for those few occasions where the inside of the helmet will be shot. For instance, the classic look with the arm, with the helmet tucked under the arm sort of thing, rather than getting a shot of that foam interior. Now there'll be shots of the fur interior, and the primary reason, of course, is to make it a little more snug on my helmet, on my head. I might also give it a bit of a heat gun and try and bring those sides in just a little more fitting so that the helmet is a little snugger around my head form-wise as well. Actually, I think I will do that pretty much before I do the gluing of the material, which will be the next fade back, so don't go too far away. Well, I probably should have taken the advice from some of my fur-wearing cosplay friends that cutting fur can be kind of messy. I've cut the pillowcase into 2 square pieces. I'll only need 1 for the lining of the helmet, and I'm about to now coat the inside of the helmet with contact adhesive, making sure that I come right up to the edges where I don't want the fur, yeah, it's all tickling my nose, where I don't want the fur to peel away, and well, that's where we're up to now. I'm just going to pop open the lid here. Now, I do have a open door just behind the curtain here, and I'm working in a very large area, so I'm not going to wear a respirator for this because it interferes with what I'm trying to tell you while we're doing it. So down with the camera a bit so we can see the work area, and I'm going to pay special attention to the edges, as I mentioned, so that the foam does not, the fur does not peel away from the foam. Now, I'll only do a minute or 2 of this so you can see what I'm doing. I do not want the glue to overlap onto my finish, because, well, I'm rather happy with the way the finish looks, and I don't want to cover it up. Also don't want to ruin it. So, once again, this contact adhesive should be applied with a relatively thin layer right out to the very edge of the surface where you want your parts to adhere, and not big wet globs of glue, because big wet globs of glue don't dry very well. So hopefully you can see that in the camera. There we go, and I'm just going to continue coating the entire surface, and we'll be back with the lining being pushed in to the helmet, so don't go too far away. Okay, so I have coated the entire inside surface of the helmet now with contact adhesive, and as you can see, I've had to do away with my trusty paddle pop solution in favour of a 25mm or 1-inch brush, only because the entire inside surfaces were way too hard to get to with the paddle pop sticks. So we're going to pop that over there out of the way. We're going to dispose of the brush down there in the trash, and now we're going to fit the foam, I've got to stop saying that, fit the fur to the inside of the helmet. And I did several takes of making a pattern, and I found this is actually going to be the best solution for getting that in there. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing that into the damp glue surface. And trusting that the glue is still there enough to permeate into the lining of this material and adhere it. And what I will do is go over the edge details. Once the glue is set, I'll trim off the excess and come in and glue around the very edges of the lips where I want this to settle in. So that was very easy, really, wasn't it? We'll let that glue dry for its prescribed 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and take another look at that. The glue has tacked off now with the lining stuck inside. There's a lot of overhang, and it's not 100% dry, but it's dry enough now to go through and remove a lot of the excess foam that is hanging out to the sides. So I'm going to carefully trim a lot of that away with the scissors. Let's put the camera down here so you can see the work surface again. And like I said, you can see a lot of excessive foam, a lot of excessive fur sticking out the side of the helmet. So that's the step that I'm doing now, giving it a close trim with the scissors. What I'm going to end up doing is come in very close with the craft knife after the glue has dried right off. But at the moment, I want to remove a lot of this excessive foam that's putting weight on the damp glue. Excessive fur, not foam. I'm quite confident with the amount of foam that's in the helmet at the moment. It's a bit of a messy process. My hat goes off to those furries in the community that make entire suits out of foam. Now, I do have fur. I do have a lot of fur component to go into this costume later on. The braces are lined with fur. The boots are fur. There are fur chaps to go underneath the iron shields on each hip. So there's a little bit of fur here, and yeah, the boots are essentially inside out Ugg boots. So yeah, furry boots on the outside with the leather on the inside. That fur is really tickling my nose, and good thing it's on the outside, not the inside, making me want to sneeze. That's a lot cleaner along this top edge. It's still not done. Like I said, all this excess here will be trimmed away. Bearing in mind, once the armour is on, there is that furry collar that goes around the outside of the armour collar, which will also tuck up against the bottom edge of the helmet here, camouflaging a lot of the imperfections. Okay, over onto the side, and let's get some of this cut out of that open cheek as best as we can. This will be a job for the craft knife to get into these tighter circles, but the more that I can get rid of at the moment with the scissors, the better line I'll get with the craft knife, because I won't have this excessive material in the way, obscuring my view. I have to stop every couple of seconds and wipe the fur away from my nose. I'll probably, when it's all dry, get the little vacuum cleaner out and give the inside of the helmet a bit of a hit with the vacuum cleaner, making sure that all the loose filaments like that are all collected up, because it's really quite hairy, yeah. And so let's get rid of. The good thing is, by doing it this way, I can cut away the flaps of excess material from the inside of the helmet. So let's see if you can't see the inside of the helmet so far. A nice furry lining which will make the helmet fit far more snugly to my scon. I think we can actually put the camera back up. So remembering, of course, that still needs to be trimmed and tidied up a bit, but now the helmet is much more secure on the head, and it actually feels a lot nicer to wear. That fur has deadened a lot of the sound though, but it shouldn't be too much of an impact at all. So there you have it at the moment. That is the Nordic carved armour helmet. I'll go ahead and clean up all that excess trim after the glue dries. But that's episode 13 in my build along. And don't forget, my friends, we do call this cosplay because it's supposed to be fun.